Sup bitches? Have you ever watched a movie that's so corny, so cliche? It's just funny because it's too cliche, or just not funny because you've seen it all before. I know I have. And today I'm going to go through a few examples of cliches that are often seen in films, more specifically horror films and action films. Here we go. Cliche number 1. You watch a horror movie or an action film, mostly horror movies. The female star gets a gun and goes off on her own in the dark, whereas all the men buffed up to the teeth with weapons go their own way, like this guy. Whereas our female star looks like this. Okay, she doesn't have a minigun and she's not really that small, but she does look badass like this. Cliche number 2. You ever noticed our female star? She always looks smartly dressed at the beginning of a movie, doesn't she? For some reason, as you progress further and further into the movie, she starts to lose items of clothing. I don't know whether this is little fairies that magically remove her items of clothing in between the scenes, or she just likes to strip for her killer. I don't know who she's trying to impress, but she eventually looks like this. Not that I'm complaining, but why would you want to strip for a killer? Really? Cliche number 3. Okay, so we've established that our female star likes to strip down to the end of the movie. She gets the killer gets killed somehow. Whether it's by her, which it won't be. It will always be a face-off between her and the killer, and some third-party person will come and shoot the killer and save her. It's always the case. Cliche number 4. Our killer is dead. However, as soon as the heroine's back is turned, BAM! He resurrects somehow. And you have to kill him again, but this time permanently. Cliche number 5. Well, the moment the truth does arrive anyways, when the protagonist faces off with a killer, you usually find this happens. He goes to fire his gun. BAM! He's run out of ammo. Always the same. And that's when the third person party finishes the kill off. Cliche number 6. Alright, so this time I'm going to refer to strictly action movies. Because we're going horror movies, the killer will kill the protagonist, apart from the main star. When it's an action movie, however, it's a different story. Does this look familiar to you? Well, it should if you've watched Star Wars before. They're the Stormtroopers. This is the Stormtrooper effect. You get the antagonist fire upon the protagonist, but never ever hit. Always miss. They are bad marksmen. Would it ever hurt a guy to just learn how to shoot a gun properly? I mean, really? Cliche number 7. Okay, this is mostly horror movies. Okay, so the protagonist gets killed somehow. It happened in Pokemon the first movie. Ash got turned to stone. It's happened in Jungle Book. Baloo the bear gets beat. It's happened in all sorts of movies. See, it's not just action horror. It's any sort of film. The protagonist apparently dies. It's supposed to get the audience upset. It's supposed to have a bit of a boo-hoo-hoo moment. It does not work. Stop using that cliche where all the protagonist is still alive. Cliche number 8. Okay, so this is a horror film now. You go with a young couple that always gets friendly with each other and have a bit of nookie. You know, a bit of housey for that. You know, sex. That's all that's on my mind, yeah? It's always the couple who have sex that always die. If you have sex in a horror movie, you're gonna die. You have to be a virgin. Cliche number 9. Okay, this one's also unique to horror movies. Mostly through the film, you get cops show up to hunt down the bad guy. But the cop always dies because he is so incompetent. I mean, really? Since when can't a cop shoot a bad guy in the head? I mean, a cop should be trained to know if someone's trying to sneak up behind them. What's happened to competent coppers nowadays? Cliche number 10. You know, in a horror movie, you know someone always dies in the opening cutscene. But when the movie starts properly, you get introduced to all the characters. the first instinct is always a false alarm. Like, you hear some banging, you hear a scream, a girl screams, ah! It's always a false alarm. It's never a killer. It's always a false alarm. It's always someone winding their mates up. It's always a false alarm. Until real thing happens, they think it's a false alarm, but we know it's not. It's always the killer. I mean, opening credits, killer. First actual proper one is always a false alarm. And then it's a killer. And then killer, and then killer, and then killer. Cop gets killed. Killer. Okay, protagonist versus off against killer. Third guy shoots a killer. Bam. It's always the same. Well, that concludes my cliches. Hope you enjoyed watching. Please comment and subscribe. And if you have any more cliches yourselves, please feel free to add them to the list.